Steve, what is over here? What's the mindset of the team heading into a game like tonight, where some guys who might not normally play much could get some chances?
The mindset is get after it. Go compete for 48, and we'll mix and match the lineups and see if we can figure some things out and find some groups that connect and go compete.
No surprise, but Steph was clearly there, shoot around. He was smiling, involved with things, obviously not shooting or anything. But what does that mean? Just have him around, have that vibe still that Steph's going to be with the team. He's not just going home and watching on TV. That kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I mean the guys obviously revere Steph, and they love his presence, and that'll matter to us tonight. During the game, and I'm sure he'll be talking to guys on the sidelines and giving some thoughts. He may come into our huddle and make a suggestion, which I always welcome. So it's good to have him here for sure.
We all saw Spencer get those kind of blowout minutes in a couple of games and put points up, saw him produce. Mm-hmm. How important are those minutes, whether it's certainly in the playoffs, but in other games where you see guys who never play put points up? I mean, we all say, it's just a garbage time, but do those matter to you?
Every minute matters. Every minute. You never know how that translates to the next game or the game after that. But, if a guy gets some minutes in a blowout and he makes the most of them, it gives that player confidence. It gives the coaches confidence in that player. So those are meaningful minutes for sure.
Steve, you were pretty candid about Draymond sort of losing his poise in Game 6 against the Rockets, and obviously came back with an extraordinary Game 7 and played, again, very well in Game 1 here. As much as you've seen him over the years, these last two games, how has he sort of elevated his, both offensively and defensively? It seems like it's about as good as he's played in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, that series was very frustrating for him throughout, and for him to close the series, Game 7 on the road, with a brilliant performance. It just speaks to who he is. There's a reason he's Draymond Green and a four-time champion and Defensive Player of the Year. All that goes way beyond his talent or his skill. It's his motivation. It's his competitive desire, his need to win. And I think he's gotten himself into a really good place the last couple games emotionally, which has helped his play for sure.
And do you see, I mean, Steph's been out at times over the years. Do you see, what does Draymond do in these situations? Does he sharpen his focus? Does he take on more leadership? I know he's a leader anyway, but how is he different, if at all, when Steph is out?
I don't think he's really any different. He's still the same guy. He's gonna lead. He's gonna advise. He's gonna yell at people. He's gonna yell at the refs. He might yell at me. He just wants to win so badly, and that's one of the things that I am just thoroughly enjoying about this run, is watching Steph and Jimmy and Loon and Dray, these guys who have been there and done so much and won championships, or in Jimmy's case led two different teams to the finals, undermanned teams, and yet at 37, 36, 35. It just matters. It's always going to matter. And that's kind of the secret to it all.
Steve, over here. Steve, Jimmy always talks about wanting to make the right play no matter what. But in a game where Steph's not going to be playing, do you talk to him about, hey, maybe the right play is taking more shots, or is anything changed? No?
I don't need to. Yeah. Jimmy knows the circumstances. If he needs to score more, he recognizes it and he does it. I don't even need to say a word.
Coach, with Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid present very different offensive challenges. They do very different things. What is that like to kind of need to make a defensive game plan against kind of very polarizing styles of offensive play for the Wolves centers?
Yeah, I mean, one guy's going to be diving to the rim. The other guy's going to be popping for threes. So it impacts matchups, who you want to have guard each guy, what the coverages are. And then if they play together, you factor that in. But it's all kind of routine stuff for us and every other NBA team. Every team poses different problems, different personnel, and you game plan for it and you try to execute.
Every team and every series is different, obviously, but it seems like more and more teams are playing a lot of zone defense this playoffs. Why do you think that might be?
It's a good question. I think we've done a lot of it. Sometimes just to take teams out of their rhythm, their patterns that they like. I think that's probably part of why you're seeing it. It's not easy with all the shooting that every team seems to have now, but it does change the chessboard. And so if a team gets into a good rhythm and they're running high ball screens and you're rotating and you're flying around and they're swing and open threes, those are rhythm plays. So sometimes if you can play an effective zone, it just disrupts that rhythm and that pattern.
You put Draymond on Randall mostly, Jimmy on Gobert. Have you mainly put Draymond on Randall in this matchup, or is that a little bit of change? And is that maybe a kind of a focus on what Randall can do, like to a defense, the kind of the way he'd been scoring?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of respect for both of them, and right now, we like that matchup. Draymond has guarded Randall over the years, and it's just it's something you think through, and you look at their patterns, and how is it going to look if Draymond's guarding Gobert versus him guarding Randall, and vice versa with Jimmy, and you try to picture it all, and those are the decisions you make, but it doesn't mean that stays that way the whole series. Thanks.
Chris, with Steph out, does Buddy become a real priority just in terms of trying to keep him from getting hot?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what he's been able to do when they've needed him most. I think playing with the most confidence I've seen him, probably in the system that has, fit him best, and his playing just like, all their great shooters have, is just constant movement, becomes a tough cover. For sure, we got to definitely be able to try to put a mark on him,
Is there a key to like just getting a hand in his face, or like how do you approach a guy like that?
Well, I mean, I didn't like our I didn't like our physicality the other day. Like we just, you can't hit what you can't touch, and like we just couldn't we just didn't get into him, didn't slow him down. We talked about being more disruptive on and off the ball. We weren't that. They beat us to every 50-50 ball. A lot of those offensive rebounds, 50-50 balls become three-point shot opportunities for Golden State because of the way they move so well and keep moving throughout a play. So, and there's just a heightened awareness on that movement that needs to happen for us.
Chris, in the Lakers series, you said you didn't want to get lost in seeking matchups and hunting, I guess, in that sort of way. Was that specific to last round, or what's the balance there of pursuing advantages versus getting kind of lost?
Well, I think you're always going to look for matchups that are going to give you some sort of advantage, but you have to also stay within the flow and the concepts of your offense that you can do, and so it is a little bit of a balance there. I think a lot of it has to do with how these defenses are built. I think the Laker defense is very different than this defense, so figuring that out as things unfold is also a huge part of the series for us. So.
Jimmy Butler's been described as playing off 2 feet.
Yeah.
He slows the game down. He's not exactly the moving target that a guy like Steph is. What's the key to defending Butler or taking something away from him?
Yeah, I think, the number one key to defending him is keeping him off the free throw line, really. I mean, he's able to draw fouls, pretty clever foul drawer, I would say. And then just got to try to win. He's got a really good first step, so you just got to try to win as many first steps as you possibly can. East-west them a little bit, and then be disciplined. So,
Jaden McDaniels has expanded his repertoire this year. Obviously, in Game 1, the priority was wing stopping on Curry.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to use him with Curry out?
We're going to use them across the board. I think there's a number of matchups depending on who's in the game at any time and what they're trying to do. I think gives us some flexibility there. and we'll see what they try to do. But we have a pretty good idea that he can. There's a number of guys that he can guard out there, and whether they're bigs or smalls.
Do you like the idea of leaning into him being kind of a skilled big in this?
Sure. Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
one, I like that sweatshirt. Very
Thank you.
sharp. Yeah.
I'll mail you one.
What have you seen from Ant since game one in terms of how he approached the film session, his demeanor at practice, anything in terms of how he's approaching this game too?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony's pretty much always the same. It's one thing that we love about him. He's resilient. He responds. Been professional. He's taken the criticism in the film room. He's taken the criticism whenever it's come his way, and he always bounces back, and he does it with a smile on his face, and that's when we know that he is at his best. That's one of the things I think that gives him a great platform to lead and be the leader for this team. So he was good. I think mood has been appropriate. We been all business, and team has been kind of a little quiet in the last day and a half, but I like that. Hopefully they're stewing. So,
Chris, you mentioned the Warriors defense. Their numbers went up significantly when Butler came. I think number one in defensive rating.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think about the way they play defense,
Yeah.
and specifically Draymond. We all know he's an accomplished defender, but as a
Sure.
coach,
Yeah.
when you watch video, what about the way Draymond plays stands out to you?
Well, he seems to be like in every spot at the same time. He can guard on the ball. He's like seemingly first to the help. Plays with great length at the rim. His timing, whether it be contesting at the rim or being in help, is impeccable. It's great. Just has great feel there, and it also kind of quarterbacks, the entire operation. So. You put together another high IQ defender like Jimmy with him, and you're gonna get a good defense. And they've done a really good job of kind of forming an identity. And when the ball gets in and around the paint, they swarm you, and they got a lot of quickness and athleticism. They don't necessarily have like size like a lot of defenses like to have interior wise, but they are very active and they know where they're going next before you even make that play. So their intuition is really good. So
we talked to Nikhil earlier today, and he's maybe not shooting as well as he hoped this postseason, and he talked about trying to put that aside. Just how have you seen him try to navigate the shooting struggles
I mean
so far?
Yeah, he's not shot the ball well. But he's had moments where he's played well. And this all season long, like I thought that what's made it such a successful season is he's been a great all-around basketball player, and that's what he needs to focus on getting back to. Not going to live and die with every shot now. This is a tough for him to do it. To do that, there's a lot of pressure on every single shot. So go out there and find other ways to contribute. We need him to play better. We need him to give us the minutes that he's been giving us all season long. And, I'm confident that he will. I think there's been a recognition that he needs to play better, and that's where we start. So.
Chris, what are you hoping to see from back here?
Okay.
What are you hoping to see from Rudy offensively to kind of help try and mitigate some of the help they're showing when you're attacking the rim?
Yeah, I think to help Rudy out, we got to find him a little better. We've not been great at that. Two is, we got to space better. I thought our spacing around Rudy was really poor the other day. I think Rudy's activity, I think he can be a little more active when he's working around on the baseline. I think he can get out of his roles a little bit quicker with a little bit more force to get some separation. Those are things that he knows how to do well, particularly when he has a size advantage, and that helps us.
Chris, when your team does struggle from three, do you want them to just keep shooting it, or do you want them to go to the rim more? How do you coach that part of it?
I want them to keep taking good shots. We love the three like everybody else, but we're not going to try to just put them up just for the sake of putting them up. We want to make the right basketball play. I do think there are times where you can drive it again and create an even better shot on the other side of the floor, but with teams that swarm the paint and hawk the ball like these guys do, they're going to give you threes, and you just got to be ready to knock them down. So, thank you.